Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Happy New Year to everybody out there, and we are off to quite a start as the crypto market is just going berserk right now. Absolutely insane, and presumably it's happening because of a very widely spread rumor that there will be approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF tomorrow. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But Bitcoin rocketed above $45,000, and it's come down a little bit since then. For anybody that's curious at the time I'm recording this, it is 7:48 p.m. Central Time, that's my time zone, Monday, January 1st, 2024. So who knows what the price is going to be by the time you see this video. You are future people. I am past Matt, so you know more than me by now. But Bitcoin got as high as $45,387, and the rest of the market behaving about the same. Everything's responding very positively to this, including XRP. So anyway, we'll share with you some of the latest on this, and this is all I'm covering in this video because this is where the excitement is obviously now. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. So here you can see XRP 63.5 cents, Bitcoin currently at $44,869. Won't be surprised if it does creep back up above $45,000. Here is a post, though, from Scott Melker, known as the Wolf of All Streets, one of the most well-known guys in all of crypto, 925,000 followers on social media platform X. And this morning, he simply posted the following: ETF approval tomorrow? That's the rumor. And so, look, just to be clear, I mean, it could happen. It is an actual possibility. I'm not convinced that that is what's most likely to occur tomorrow. I mean, look, I think that you're going to get a bunch of the applicants approved all at once, but it's probably going to be between the 8th and the 10th. And we've talked about that in the past. But markets are speculating that it could happen as soon as tomorrow. And so to me, I think it's reasonable to suppose that's why we're seeing fireworks tonight in terms of Bitcoin price action, then the whole market's moving in tandem. And then just a little bit ago, 6:33 p.m. Central Time, Scott Melker also wrote, Bitcoin is trading like an ETF is about to be approved. Now, that's for damn sure. I mean, Bitcoin, 24-hour low, $42,384. So it had from that bottom to the top within the last 24 hours, it's increased $3,000, just over $3,000. That doesn't happen every day. That's a big ass move. Yeah, so I would not be surprised if this is actually what's fueling this all. Now, here's what Fox Business journalist Eleanor Terrett had to say. She reposted what Scott Melker wrote, saying that the rumor is that the ETF is going to get approved tomorrow for Bitcoin. And that's widely spread. But here's what Eleanor had to say. While the SEC is surely unpredictable, it would surprise me if approvals were to happen tomorrow. From what I understand through conversations I've had with issuers, the SEC still has to review all the changes made to the S1s filed on Thursday/Friday and make comments on them. If the SEC follows a similar approval timeline to the ETH futures in October, the agency will, after this round of reviews, communicate to the issuers a date they want the final S1s to be filed and make them effective in the subsequent 24 to 48 hours. SEC staff has been off since Friday, so a Tuesday or even a Wednesday approval seems tight, but we shall see. Regardless, the next 2 weeks will be exciting for crypto. Yeah, and so I think what she's saying is making a lot of sense. It's not that it couldn't, we could get word tomorrow, I acknowledge that we get this approval. I just don't see it as the most probable. And as she pointed out here, these people, they were just off like since Friday. Are they? And there's a lot of paperwork still to do. Are they actually going to have it ready tomorrow? Kind of skeptical on that. Here's a headline from Being Crypto. SEC grapples with significant paperwork amid Bitcoin ETF deadline. As the deadline for the spot Bitcoin exchange traded fund approaches on January 10th, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission is reportedly swamped with paperwork. Despite the imminent deadline, BlackRock, an asset management firm vying for approval of a Bitcoin ETF, reports not having heard from the U.S. regulator. And so, folks, the fact that they hadn't heard from him, that in and of itself is not alarming or surprising. It's not that the SEC has just been putting on this show and they're not actually going to approve this thing. I don't think that's the most likely thing here. I think it really is they've just been busy and they have a lot of catching up to do. Anyway, piece continues. According to a recent report from Fox Business's Charles Gasparino, BlackRock has not received any communication from the U.S. regulator. This suggests substantial pending work before a decision is reached in just a few days. Quote, people at BlackRock say it's radio silence from SEC. Eleanor Terrett's sources, plural, say the amount of paperwork the SEC still needs to go through make the announcement likely toward week's end. So, that's the end of the quote. So, it's certainly plausible that we could see a decision by the end of this week. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. I mean, so what I see almost everybody betting on that is in the know, even in the least, is January 8th to 10th. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Now, as far as the impact, look, XRP is going along for the right period. Like you're even seeing today, with all of this hype out there, obviously, people have been buying the rumor. That's what I think this is anyway. I think that this is people buying the rumor. That's why Bitcoin popped over $45,000 today. And I do think they're going to sell the news. So even if we get a big run, and I keep saying this, even if we get a big run, I still think shortly after that, we're going to see a major move to the downside. And I'm happy to be wrong. I don't know for sure. Nobody knows for sure. Everybody, feel free to take a stab at this, and we'll just see who ends up being right in the end. But that does seem to be what's happening. So there was perspective from economist Alex Kruger, and I think he's just nailing this one. Here you can see the headline: Economist Alex Kruger issues Bitcoin warning, says this could send prices crashing after spot Bitcoin ETF approval. And it sounds more scary than it actually is. Well, check this out. Widely followed economist Alex Kruger is issuing a warning to traders about Bitcoin, saying that the crypto king could crash after the approval of a spot market exchange traded fund. In a lengthy thread, the analyst tells his 158,900 followers on the social media platform X that he believes the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission approving spot market Bitcoin ETFs will be a sell the news event. Yep, I think he's nailing it. According to Kruger, the top crypto asset by market cap will see an immediate rise after the expected approval date in January, but the rally will be met with profit taking. Quote, Bitcoin ETF base case scenario. Number one, win January 8th through January 10th. Number two, immediate reaction. Up on approval, rationale currently 90% priced in. And so I think the same thing. I don't think that the news breaks and then it just starts plummeting. That seems kind of silly. But I do think there's going to be a lot of people recognizing this is the time to take some profit. And so, back when Bitcoin was like $25,000, $26,000, $27,000, it was pretty easy to argue, and I did, that I didn't think that any sort of Bitcoin ETF approval was really priced into the market in any sort of meaningful way. But now it's hard to argue that. Look, we went from $25,000 for Bitcoin price to over $45,000 pretty damn quickly, relatively speaking. And yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, is this the reason? Are we just pulling price forward? Because if you believe in the 4-year cycle, is it the case that we would have seen Bitcoin go up this much anyway, but just it would have been a little bit later? We're just pulling some of this activity forward purely because of this, and I don't have the answer, but it's reasonable to ask. Anyway, then he says number 3, follow-up: drop below pre-approval point into launch. 2 weeks later, cleaning up all late levered monkeys. Rationale: market is very hot now, with altcoins funding in the 20 to 60%, and Bitcoin's March futures annualized basis around 17 to 20%. Note there is no official date for the launch. It could be days after approval or much later, though given how many ETFs are in the race sooner rather than later, makes more sense, end quote. The Economist says that strong inflows after the launch of an ETF could help push Bitcoin's price up. However, if the inflows are weak, or if the ETF bids get rejected, he says it could cause the flagship digital asset to plummet. Quote, number 4, post-launch, strong inflows / volume reestablish the upward trend, or, if weak, send prices crashing, as frontrunners need to dump into few bids. Be warned that if by chance the ETF gets rejected, prices will rapidly collapse. Good idea to have alerts on in January, end quote. Yeah, so that seems totally plausible too. I mean, there is still a possibility, I acknowledge this. You could see the SEC outright deny every single one of these damn things. I just don't think it's, I don't think that's remotely likely because the SEC is behaving incredibly different than they ever have in the past. All these meetings, all the back and forth, all the open communication with all these applicants, that's never happened before. Also on top of that, don't forget, they lost that lawsuit with Grayscale. Like, the writing's on the wall. They know they have to do this, so they're just going to get in more and more trouble, and then they'll just have a litany of new lawsuits if these things don't get approved, and they'll lose. So it's like, what's the point? You know? But sure, it's still the SEC, and they're a bunch of asshat pricks, so I can't rule it out. You know, they actually could, for whatever moronic reasons, actually deny all of the applicants. Okay, in which case I'll seriously wonder why they were doing what they were doing, because that wouldn't make sense to me. And then but let's just assume it gets approved. Well, what happens after that? Well, like Alex Kruger brought up here, it is to some degree going to depend on inflows. And so that's why I wanted to highlight this, because look, like I keep saying, yes, there's the idiot living retail speculators out there that cause all the volatility that makes it possible for us to achieve life-changing wealth in crypto. And so I make fun of them, even though I appreciate that they exist, because without them, there would be no volatility. There wouldn't be this opportunity. They're still going to do their own thing. They're going to keep acting like idiots. Like you can always count on retail to act like a bunch of raving lunatics. You can absolutely count on that. But there's another side of this. Like I've been saying, there's real institutional money really going to be flowing in and opening up the floodgates. Like it is a real thing. So even if it's not like snap of a finger and now all the money's in Bitcoin, because I don't believe that. There's some people that believe, I think that's nonsense too. But if there is sufficient demand, if there is in 2024, yeah, you better believe this thing's going to move up. And so here we have this headline. And so this just gives you a little taste of what could be coming from the Daily Huddle. Bitwise says unnamed investor plans to seed $200 million into asset manager spot Bitcoin ETF, SEC filing. So this is an SEC filing. Here you have Bitwise saying, oh yeah, well, we got somebody who wants to invest $200 million into our spot Bitcoin ETF if the SEC approves it. This is one entity. And you know that typically, it's estimated that whatever amount of money flows into Bitcoin, you can expect that to increase market cap by 5 to 10 times that. So it's like you get a bit of that much. And again, this is one entity from one applicant. So if you do see a ton of this in 2024, it is plausible that it would shift the supply and demand dynamics sufficiently that you could see a crazy rally. But I think what's most likely, perhaps, is that just more so over a span of many years and especially decades, it's going to have a truly meaningful impact. I'm always just less optimistic in the short term, even though I understand the genuine significance of all of this. But I will also say, even without that, even if this wasn't the rumor, and even if there were no firms applying for a spot Bitcoin ETF, this is still the time to be excited. The 4-year cycle is still a thing. And, just look at what's happening with stocks, and crypto follows. So we'd still have that regardless, right? This is just a hypey thing. But anyways, piece reads as follows. Crypto asset manager Bitwise says that an unnamed investor wants to seed hundreds of millions of dollars into its planned spot market Bitcoin exchange-traded fund. According to a new S-1 document filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, an unidentified investor is planning on seeding $200 million into Bitwise's potential ETF, though no binding agreement has been made. Quote, an unnamed investor has indicated an interest in purchasing an aggregate of up to $200 million of shares in this offering from authorized participants, or APs for short, or in the marketplace through broker-dealers. However, because indications of interest are not binding agreements or commitments to purchase, this potential purchaser could determine to purchase more, fewer, or no shares. End quote. Okay, and so this is what I'm getting, and this is why when Alex Kruger said what he said, I firmly agree. I'm on the same page with what he's saying right here. And I know this is anecdotal, of course, but if there's a ton of this type of activity, if there's genuine interest, it's going to show. It will be reflected in the market. It's just the case that nobody knows for sure. But I'll tell you this, BlackRock think that there's going to be sufficient demand, or else they wouldn't be doing this. They think this is going to be a massive moneymaker for them. Massive, massive, massive. So, we'll see what this looks like. Anyway, piece continues. According to Bloomberg analyst and ETF expert Eric Balchunas, the $200 million amount dwarfs that of the seed money for BlackRock, the world's largest asset management firm, which is slated for just $10 million. Quote, Bitwise S1 has been filed, and it looks like someone, I wonder who, is going to seed BitB with $200 million, which blows away BlackRock's $10 million that we know of. That's going to be a huge help in the early days of the race. No AP named, but probably forthcoming, end quote. Yeah, and so that doesn't necessarily mean anything in and of itself, because BlackRock is going to do what BlackRock does, and they're going to sell the hell out of this thing. That's why they have the people they have working on this. Like, they're going to absolutely, and like the level of marketing, all the advertisements, yes. So just because there's a $10 million figure versus Bitwise's $200 million figure right at the gate, I don't think that matters at all. Just my personal opinion. So we'll see what happens here. Hey, there you go. Bitcoin back over $45,000 as I'm wrapping up this video. It's now 8:03 p.m. Central Time. So, wow, this is going to be bananas. So, by the time this thing goes, like, where do you think this is going to go? Because I mean, it's Bitcoin could pop to over 50 grand if we get this positive news. Who knows how high it goes? I wouldn't be surprised. But again, I still do think it's a sell the news event, even if we see that. But again, I don't care. That won't, to me, I won't think for a moment that indicates that the party's over. It's just markets get hot, people are too exuberant, so on and so forth, and I mean, retail speculators are just stupid. Like they make important financial decisions based on emotion and excitement, all that jazz. But no matter what happens, I agree with Hunter Turret. The next couple weeks in crypto are going to be super interesting, but truth be told, I think the entire year is going to be really interesting. And the first half, if the blockchain backer's right, and he may very well be, we're going to see, like, for a lot of people, truly life-changing wealth. And I know he doesn't think that Bitcoin's going to get into all-time high, and he may be right, but I don't know. I don't pretend to know. But either way, there's a lot of opportunity. I still think you're going to see altcoins run like crazy. Like, it's going to be a fun year. I really enjoyed 2023. This is going to be an even better year, I personally believe. We'll see what happens. Or famous last words. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.